US has slapped China with a 104% tariff. Is there expected to be a reaction, or much of a reaction, out of Beijing?
Well, look, it certainly seems like Beijing is standing firm, Dan. Just to lay the timeline out for people, of course, Donald Trump announced that raft of measures in his Liberation Day announcement last week. That included a 34% tariff on Chinese goods. Now, that's already in addition to 20% that he's already put on Chinese goods in the first couple of months of this second administration. Now, that brings the total to 54%. We saw on the weekend Beijing respond, saying that it in turn would put 34% tariffs on American goods coming into China. And then we saw, of course, that angry reaction from Donald Trump yesterday, saying that if the Chinese government did not reverse that decision within the day, he would be slapping another 50% on top of all these tariffs. So that's how we've got to this 104% figure, which has just come into effect. So Beijing yesterday was very strong on this. They did not reverse that 50%, that 34% decision on their behalf. The Foreign Ministry accusing Donald Trump and the US administration of blackmail and bullying, saying it was a typical move of unilateralism and protectionism, saying that America is severely infringing on the legitimate rights and interests of other countries. So a very strong response there. It doesn't seem like the administration in Beijing is going to back down. And certainly, of course, now they are probably concerned with presenting a strong image, a strong response for their own domestic consumption, the public there in China. And it is worth noting too that as well as this 50% tariff, Donald Trump said that he would be cutting off any opportunities for negotiations if Beijing came asking, but he has for some time been saying that he was due to speak with Xi Jinping on the phone, the president of China. He repeatedly has said about what a good relationship he has with Xi Jinping. We've seen nothing by my watch of anything in return from Xi Jinping or the Chinese administration about a phone call between the two leaders. It certainly hasn't happened. So it does seem like China has decided to push forward with this strong response, and now they're really just trying to hold fire and wait and see.
It's going to be very interesting, Kathleen, to see how those relationships go into the future. And I guess more broadly, what's the general feeling or the sense that you're getting across the region as these trade tensions have been ratcheting up?
Well, the markets are certainly skittish. We saw really big falls in Hong Kong and Japan on Monday. Today, the benchmark Hong Kong index dropped 3.1%. Taiwan's share market dropped by nearly 2% at the open today. And the Japanese, the Tokyo share market has dropped as well over the last few days, although there were some gains yesterday. So certainly think people are worried. There's also probably an opportunity here for Beijing to present itself to its Asian neighbours as a more stable, reliable partner in comparison to Donald Trump's second administration. This is pretty interesting because China does have some tense relationships, particularly with its close neighbours at the moment, but only a week ago we saw a meeting of the trade ministers of South Korea, Japan and China, three countries which have a lot of historical baggage, current tensions as well, yet they got together for those trade ministers for the first time in more than 5 years and said that they would be accelerating efforts to finally negotiate a free trade agreement between the three countries. So really a consequence of Donald Trump's approach here, pushing three countries that, historically haven't always got along terribly well together to see how they can find more markets in their own backyard for the products that may no longer be going to the United States. One other thing that's worth mentioning is that China is, of course, not the only country that's being hit with these heavy tariffs. today. Southeast Asian countries have been hit particularly hard. Vietnam has been hit with a 46% tariff, 36% for Thai products, and 49% for Cambodian imports into the United States. So those countries will really be reeling from this, because for them there was potentially an opportunity there to, I guess, get into some of those markets if the cheap Chinese products were no longer so prominent and getting so abundant getting into America. Those countries where there has been some diversification of supply chains and manufacturing over the last few years, those countries might have thought that they stood to gain from some trade tension between China and the US, but certainly any of those hopes would have been dashed with these announcements last week, because they have actually been hit even hard, well, before the 104% number came into things, but they initially were hit even harder than China.